This is a sacred space. The subjects we're talking about are sacred subjects. They so transcend what you see on television, what you hear in the news, what you hear from Washington, what you hear from other parts of the globe, because they are dealing with the ultimate sense of why are we here? And what is our purpose in proceeding through our lives bereft of the heritage to which we all should be enjoined? That heritage, in part, will determine our future. As all of this gestalt, the ultimate meaning of why we're pursuing these investigations, came to a critical mass, one number kind of floated up, and I don't mean 19.5. That was the number 2012. Because the more we delved into the geometry that we found at Cydonia, and the connections to sacred sites here on this planet, and the traditions of ancient wisdom keepers, like the Maya, like the Hopi in the American tradition, like the Celts in the European tradition, like the Egyptians, like the Polynesians, the more we see extraordinary common threads, which on the one hand are told as stories to preserve the narrative, preserve the spine of information. And on the other hand, they're told in terms of the numbers. If you start reading sacred traditions, it doesn't matter whether they're the Vedic, whether they're the Mayan, or the Egyptian, you wind up looking at the same sets of numbers over and over again. And it becomes very obvious as you get into this over years and even decades that those numbers are the key essentials, and the stories which entrain and transmit the numbers are essentially the carrier wave. They're the mechanism whereby peoples all over this planet, indigenous peoples, native peoples, transmigrational peoples, have preserved the essence of these numbers because there is information in those numbers, and the information is important both to our past and, more relevant, they're important to our future. It became quite obvious in the last couple of years that a lot of that message in those numbers was trying to tell us about this now almost mythic date of 2012. And you're going to see, as these various confluences of the stories and the numbers came together, they told a unifying tale. They told a gestalt about what could happen in the next 6 years. Not only what the mythos was saying could happen, related by various peoples around the world, but more important for me, what the physics that we have learned by looking at a set of ruins on another alien world was completely independently telling us about the tale of those same numbers. And the convergence, the coalescence, the aha moment will come as you see how this data now neatly falls together and actually makes for a predictive tale. There's a lot of people doing interesting work in the 2012 paradigm. People like John Major Jenkins, people like Jay Widener, people, well, like some of the people that we've assembled here, David Wilcock and David Flynn. But what has been missing is the physics behind those tales. Why was it that the Maya, for instance, were so fixated on the center of the Milky Way? How did they even know that the Milky Way galaxy was A, a galaxy, and B, it had a center? If you look at the Milky Way arching across the night sky, it is not readily apparent to the untrained eye that it has a center. It looks like a band of milky light circling the heavens, alternately tipped in one direction and another as the seasons unfold. The Maya knew it had a center. The Vedic tradition, half a world away, literally on the other side of this planet, thousands of years ago, knew the Milky Way was an assemblage of stars to which the sun belonged, and that we orbited around a center. In fact, they even had the concept that the center of the Milky Way was some incredibly all-encompassing, massive, dark object, i.e. a black hole. And modern science, in the last 10, 20 years, has demonstrated that, in fact, yes, a black hole, a dense object, not emitting light, but of intense gravity, something like 3 or 4 million times the mass of the sun, lurks at the center of the galaxy. And in fact, in astrology, it is the unsung 800-pound gorilla, or pink elephant, mixing our metaphors, Natalie, in the room. Because in terms of the influence, celestial influences that we now can discuss rationally in terms of the hyperdimensional model, in terms of those influences which influence not only our individual lives, but our collective lives as a people on this planet, it turns out that our geometric relationship to the center of the Milky Way galaxy is of overwhelming importance. And we will be able to demonstrate for you in a very elegant and very visual way that that geometric relationship to the galaxy, which comes to a penultimate climax at 11:11 a.m. December 21, 2012, is in fact a physically meaningful relationship and is behind, quite likely, all of the mythos that the Vedas and the Mayas and the Egyptians and the others have given us down through the centuries and thousands of years. Where this all meets the road, as my trucker friends would say, is the reason we are here in this Joshua retreat in the Mental Physics Institute, because it is a Buddhist sanctuary created by a gentleman named Ding Li Mai, who was a protege of a Buddhist monk named Yogananda, who had a gathering in Santa Barbara, who in turn was a protege of a Buddhist monk named Swami Yukswar in India in the last century, who wrote a book called The Holy Science, which in fact was the first modern iteration of the ancient Vedic traditions, which talked about the idea that the sun not only orbited the Milky Way, but in fact orbited a lost companion, an invisible star to which the solar system and the sun belong as a double star system. As you begin to look at the physics of 2012, that machination of those cultural ideas manifests through the physics now of the hyperdimensional model turn out to give us the key to understanding what physically could happen to make manifest the predictions of the Maya and the Hopi and the Vedas and the other indigenous peoples vis-a-vis 2012. So what we're all going to try to do is to take you on a journey from the past, a journey through the present, and a journey looking toward the future, a future which is only 6 years away. And I guarantee you, your view of life and who you are and where you are and where you're going will never be the same. Thanks for coming.